Um, yeah. Opening day today, Angels Orioles. Yeah, kind of a dud, right? Kind of the story that we've seen for a long time, even long before Shohei got to the Angels, where Mike Trout's out there hitting a solo shot. There's nobody on base, and they figured out a way to get a couple runs in the ninth, but by then it was pretty much too late, which has been the story for the Angels for many years, right? And I know they're all really hopeful. They said they have energy, that they want to surprise some people this year, and that Ron Washington's really brought a lot of new energy and philosophy to the clubhouse, and that's awesome. And I'm glad for that. But you got to have talent. These other teams have, the Orioles are a perfect example of a team who just has an amazing farm system that just keeps bringing up guy after guy after guy after guy. Now, granted, they were bad for a long time to get all the picks where they got all those guys, but now it's starting to pay off. Where now they're going to be, a perennial contender in the NL or in the AL East, excuse me, for a long time, and that's not easy when you have the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Blue Jays all nipping at your heels all the time as contenders, also, and teams that are willing to spend money in free agency and develop players and have all these different things going on, right? So we see Trout, Corbin Burns comes out, and Trout gets one that barely goes over the right center wall. Which was a great way to start the game. That's awesome. We want to see Trout rebound this year, so that's fantastic. They've been trying Rendon and leadoff, which today went to the tune of 0 for 4. Hicks, who's been playing right field, who was in Baltimore last year, ironically enough, 0 for 3. Trout, that was his only hit, and obviously an RBI there. Moniak would replace him later in the game and go 0 for 1. Taylor Ward was in left. He was 0 for 4. Drury 0 for 2. Rengifo did get a pinch hit, which was nice to see. Shanuel 0 for 2. Sano, the guy whose contract just got selected because he does have power for sure, and he's a former major leaguer who's in the best shape of his life after taking a year off to rehab and get his body right and lose a bunch of weight. So Sano's back in the majors, but he was 0 for 2 today. Joe Adell pinch hit for him one time and was 0 for 1. Logan O'Hoppe is 0 for 2, and Neto was also 0 for 3. And then you had Sandoval give up, 3 and 1 2/3. Suarez gave up 3 and 3 2/3. Cisnero gave up 3 and 2/3 of 1 inning. Um, Suniga was nice. He had a scoreless inning, and so did Simber. So I guess on the bright side, those two guys did. Although Zuniga did have a walk, so take it for what you will. Couple strikeouts for Sandoval, a couple strikeouts for Suarez, and one strikeout for Zuniga. So, not exactly the start they wanted. Outside of a couple bullpen guys that did come in and shut down a really tough lineup later, in the game as far as the 1 inning each. So that's nice. But don't like to see number one, your starter, not go 2 innings, right? I understand it's early and they're still stretching these guys out, but Sandy has got to go. He's got to go at least 5, probably 6 innings. If he were to give up 3 runs over, um, 5 or 6 innings, that would be a different story, obviously, because then your team would be, in the game, but they can't give up 3 in 2 innings and then go up 3 and then give up 3, and then it ends up being 11-1. Even though they started out 1-0, really nice. But as you see, the Orioles have a deep lineup where anybody can score, at any time if they're getting the right pitch. And the Angels have one guy who's out there, carrying all the weight, per usual for Mike Trout. So we're grateful to have Mike Trout, the Red Knight. He's doing his thing, and he's, planning on having an amazing rebound of the season. And by all accounts, as long as he can stay healthy, there's no reason why that's not the case. Health is the only thing that's ever held Mike Trout back. Even last year when he came back, he was battling a really weird wrist thing where, he had to have a bone removed and all this kind of stuff. So people have been, hard on him because, when you're Mike Trout and you've had 3 MVPs, there's, ridiculous expectations that you yourself are held to your own performance over time, even if you were a younger man when that happened, right? And so Mike Trout's still low in his baseball prime. I mean, he's still going to be able to, be a productive guy for a while, but he's going to need some help. And Artie and Perry are going to have to figure out how to get him that help, whether they like it or not, whether they want to spend money or not. If they want to be relevant at all, he's got to get some help. Whether it's pitching, they apparently were in on Snell and Martinez, and I think part of that's just lip service for fans, where they're going, "Hey, hey, oh yeah, we were in on them, we tried, they didn't want to come here," kind of thing. And By all accounts, Snell did want to come there, but if the contracts are not, all equal, and there's a big difference between, what he ended up getting to go to a contender in a really tough division in the NL West with San Francisco, but he could slot in and have some other guys there in the lineup to take some pressure off of him as far as the rotation goes. And the Angels don't really have that. Sandy was the opening day starter day, but the truth is Sandy's probably more like a 3, 4, maybe even a 5, and I understand, that's just the cards that are dealt right now, and that's what they have to go with. And Sandy's been a dependable guy, no doubt. I mean, he's been a solid starter, but he's not a one. And when you go up against another team's one like Corbin Burns, I mean, who dominated for the Brewers for years. Obviously, Trout can hit a home run off anybody, no matter how good they are. I mean, that's just the reality of it. And that's what you saw today is that Burns, gave up one to Trout and then walked back in, and that was all it really took to not have anybody else really do anything other than one hit by Rengifo. So the Angels are going to have to figure it out. They're going to have to get on the bases first of all. The first thing is they got to get on the bases. Whether you walk, whether you get a hit, however you get on the bases, you got to get on the bases. And when Mike Trout comes up, there needs to be one or two dudes on the bases. That needs to be the goal, so that when he actually does perform, it means something, and you can actually get something out of it. You can't just be solo shot, Steve every single day. You're not going to win anything. You might get a couple games where you win 4-3, and Mike Trout hit two solo shots, and you were able to scrape somehow. Other than that, but he cannot do this by himself, and the Angels have got to figure out how to be a competitive organization. You can't trade all these prospects for guys, then waive those guys, and then let your best player walk for nothing. They get a compensatory pick, but the truth of the matter is that compensatory picks only matter if you know how to draft and use them and develop players, right? And I know they're trying to get guys that are major league ready in the draft. That's what Shanuel and Reed Detmers were really guys. They were pretty much ready who had performed really well in college, and they said, "Hey, we can plug these guys in almost right away." Detmers, it took not quite right away, but it was almost right away, and then Shanuel pretty much got elevated almost immediately last year because they were hoping for a spark and anything that could potentially help their team. And I understand that, and I think he will be good in time in the majors. There's no doubt. I think he'll end up being, no doubt, he'll end up being as good as a guy like Jared Walsh was for quite a few years for us. I think that'll be good if he can just figure it out a little bit. But it's very frustrating to watch. I understand. I hear you all every single day going, "Oh, this is the worst lineup we've had in years out there" and stuff. I understand that. Anthony Rendon's got to figure out, what to do to get on base. He knows how to get on base. There's no doubt about that. I mean, the guy has done it for years, but he's got to figure out how to stay healthy and get on base because that's, I think, ultimately what they're trying to do by putting him first is going, hey, if you can get on base, or if we can have some of the guys at the end of the lineup get on, and then have you come up and have you drive them in, or have you get on for Trout. That's ultimately what we're really looking at. But number one, you can't give up 11 runs, right? So even if all of those things went well, this is the thing I was talking about earlier when we were talking about the Angels' notes to begin the season is everything has to go right, right? For the Angels to compete, everything has to go right. And that's just an unrealistic expectation to put on, and Mike Trout's been carrying that weight on his shoulders for a long time, and he had Shohei to help him a little bit there. And obviously Shohei is and a great all-time great player, no matter what's happening with, the betting, whatever he did or didn't do on the field, he's a great player, and he was for the Angels, on both sides as far as any time he was out there. But, they've got to figure out a way to do this. And Shohei, has help around him now. And you saw what the Dodgers were able to do today. When you do have help, you can come back, you can do different things when you have options. The Angels just don't have those options. That's just point blank period, and that's coming from a lifetime fan that would love to see them have options, right? But we also have to be real and hold the team accountable, right? I mean, as fans, we can't just sit here and go, "Oh, well, this is going to be fantastic." I mean, even if we get a few guys that do surprise us, say Sano returns to form and hits 30 home runs this year, right? Say Rendon returns to form and hits 30 home runs this year, right? And they each have 80 RBIs. Is that enough with the pitching that we have right now? No. And the reason why they didn't sign JD Martinez and Blake Snell, the thing that they don't say publicly because they don't want the fans to get upset, is they know that if they had brought in Montgomery, Snell, and they had brought in, you know, Martinez, it probably would not matter because that's how many things they need. So right now, what they're hoping to find is a couple of these guys to step up and be a diamond in the rough, like Shanuel and a couple of these young guys, and then to potentially supplement them if they were doing well toward the trade deadline. But the truth is they don't have a whole lot to trade. They've got a few guys in the farm system that look like they're going to be decent players, but not, game changing players. There's very few of those, if any, and so that's really ultimately what the Angels need to figure out is what are we going to do here to potentially compete? And I don't just mean this year, because whether they compete or not this year is whatever. But for the next several years of Mike Trout's career, what are you going to do to help this guy? And if you're not going to help him and he does decide to do something else, which there's been no indication that that's going to happen, what can you get for him? And when is it too late to make a move to do that? Right. And I don't want that to happen. If Mike Trout wants to retire an Angel, he's earned the right to make that decision. And I think they should let him. If he goes, I want to play here till I'm 40 and just we're going to have whatever team we have, then I think they should let him do that because he has earned the right and carried that weight and done everything humanly possible from convincing Shohei to come here. Shohei got on a conference call with Mike Trout, and that's ultimately what swayed him to come to the Angels. Plus, they had the DH at the time, and the National League didn't. I was telling people 2 years ago, if the Dodgers had the DH at the time when Shohei came over, he would have went to the Dodgers then. And then when they changed that rule, it was almost a certainty that if the Angels were not competing, that was going to happen because the Dodgers were not afraid to spend capital. After spending $1 billion in the offseason on Yamamoto and Shohei Ohtani, they just extended Will Smith for an additional 140. You know why? Because they have deep pockets. They're not afraid to spend it. They're not afraid to go over the luxury tax. They're not afraid of those things as an organization. Plus, they have a huge farm system to supplement and support that. So they know they're going to contend even if they don't make those moves. But they know if they do make those moves by taking a guy like Ohtani and plugging him in where Martinez was, that it extends their window because Ohtani's a younger guy than Martinez. So Martinez, they would have got another year or two of production out of him for almost the same price that they're paying Shohei. And Shohei's a much younger guy that can potentially even pitch and get in your rotation as Kershaw, retires. So, or falls off or whatever ends up happening with that. So the Angels have a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do. There's no doubt. Maybe they'll bounce back and start showing, and some of these guys will start performing. But these pitchers in Major League Baseball are not just going to go, oh, let's just throw something to the Angels. We feel bad. That's not going to happen. These are major league clubs. They have contracts on the line. These guys are fighting for their own survival, whether on a contending team or not, for their next contract, whether on a contending team or not. They are not just going to roll over. And if the Angels don't want to be bottom feeders all year, and Oakland and Seattle have made improvements this offseason, Texas is still right there. They lost a couple guys, but they still have guys to supplement, and they got a couple guys to help with losing some of those guys that they did lose. They still got the main guys that helped them win, the World Series. You got Houston, who's not going anywhere anytime soon. No matter what you think of them and how they're doing it, whether they're cheating or not cheating or whatever's going on, they're going to get enough wins to get toward the postseason, if not be a leader in the division again. So the Angels have a lot of stuff that they have to figure out about what kind of organization they want to be, not just now but into the future. And that's really what we're looking at. The pitching was subpar, but Trout did homer, and the opening day thoughts are the same. That they've been, unfortunately, for a lot of these seasons where Trout just does not have enough around him. At least at the beginning of his career, he had Richards and Weaver in the rotation, and you had some dogs in there that could go out there and figure out a way to get some outs. Even if they didn't have the best stuff that day or whatever, Weaver would battle and Richards would battle, and those guys would do that. But it doesn't last forever, and Trout's still there doing his thing, which is only speaks to the monument of his greatness. He is truly one of the greatest players in the history of the game. Anybody who says otherwise is kidding themselves. Yes, he's had trouble hitting the high fastball. I understand that. But you know what? There's a reason why they had to resort to pitching a high fastball, and that's because if you pitch it anywhere else, they know where it's going, even when he's not 100% healthy and he's battling through injuries. So let's not kid ourselves, and let's all be really thankful that Mike Trout is the person he is. He's a loyal guy. He's a fantastic person, and he's performed for the Angels more than that contract has ever been worth. He brings fans to the stadium, including ourselves, right? More than they probably deserve at this point for what we're getting back from a management and team, building standpoint. And ultimately, it would have been nice to see Cuero and all those guys come up this year and get an opportunity if our team wasn't going to contend. And those guys are gone because they got rid of them, and then 2 weeks later got rid of the guys that they got for them. It was just all of these things just show you that I know that Perry's not ultimately in charge of every decision that's made, obviously. Artie is the common denominator in no matter who the GM has been, right? It's been Regan's, DePoto, Epler, whoever it is, right? It's been Perry. It's not Perry's fault that this is going on. So the Angels need to decide what's going to happen. And please leave your thoughts and comments. Please like and subscribe, guys. That's what helps me bring this stuff to you, and let's have open conversations. Please feel free to comment here or on YouTube, or on the Facebook post where this goes, or whatever the case may be in Angels Baseball Addicts. I do this for you guys, but all I ask in return is totally free for you, which is just to hit that like and hit that subscribe button, because that's what's going to help it grow. It helps me bring richer content, get better information, better equipment, better things for you to make this all better, so that we can all talk about it on a better basis, a more consistent basis. And that's what helps me and enables me the time, energy, and equipment to do the things we need to do in order to do that. So all I ask for anything ever from anybody is never for money. It's never for anything like that. It's only to like and subscribe, so that those things happen organically, and that you don't have to do anything but just participate in whatever your opinion is, right? All I ask is that we don't troll and we don't say anything. Over the last, several weeks, as we've been dealing with this Otani situation, I've been a little perturbed because in Angels Baseball Addicts, I've actually had to get rid of some people because they were saying things like, "Oh, the Chinamen," and all this kind of stuff. That's just not appropriate to use that kind of terminology. If you can't say it in a professional environment at work, then you shouldn't be saying it in Angels Baseball Addicts. Trolling is not okay. I don't want any of that stuff in that group. That group was specifically designed, in Angels Baseball Addicts as a whole is specifically made with the purpose, when we made it in 2014, to be a trollless, sell-less. I don't want to see tickets sold in there. I don't want to see merchandise sold in there. It's clean team content. There are players in there. There are former players in there. There are family members of players, current and former, in there. And I want them to have a safe place to discuss things with us. And with that, you get cool tidbits and stories, and sometimes inside insight that you wouldn't have otherwise. The only way that happens is to have the platform be clean of all this nonsensical reactionary nonsense. We can all be frustrated, but how you show your frustration should be with class, and it should be in a professional manner, just like it is when you go to work and they don't allow that kind of stuff, right? I don't mind if you have a negative opinion, because sometimes that's warranted based on what's actually going on. But we do need to all contribute in a way that is productive, constructive criticism, not just straight, frying, and all that. That doesn't do any good. It doesn't lead in a good direction, and it's not healthy for you or me or the group, right? So let's just all keep that in mind as we move forward. It could be frustrating, if we have more games like this today where the pitching can't do it, and we're not getting any production from the offense. It will be frustrating, but we got to put the onus on the team, and remember that the word fan is for fanatic. And that means that we're fans no matter what happens. If our team's good, bad, or indifferent. I bleed Angel Red no matter what their record is. That's from 2002 when they won the World Series to the worst years they've ever had. I've always been the same as far as my passion goes for this, and I hope that that's the same for you. And please share your thoughts, comments, concerns in a productive manner, and we'll always do that together and figure it out, discuss it, and use whatever platforms available to us to make our voices heard. As the Halo honks, as Roger Lodge would say, though we all are. Okay, thank you guys very much, and please let me know your thoughts and all that, and please like and subscribe. That's all I ever ask. Thank you.